Hey folks, Dan here. I'm going to be trying something a little bit different today. Let's talk about a comic while I solve some cube puzzles here at a nice leisurely pace. There's no need to rush. It's not a race. So, I want to talk about Another Day at the Office. This is an indie comic that comes to us from Cory de Guardia. I'll give a link to his socials in the description below the video. So he did something pretty cool. He made all 4 issues of his comic, Another Day at the Office, freely available on Gumroad under a pay-as-you-wish-to-pay model. So you can go ahead and read all 4 of these issues for free right now. I'll provide a link to the Gumroad location that you can avail yourself of the comic from, as well in the description below the video. So I've looked through all the issues that you can freely look at over on Gumroad, and I'm going to be talking about the first one because I don't want to spoil it too much. I just want to give you a general overview of what you can expect from this series. So the first thing I want to talk about, as usual, is the cover. The cover is what draws you in and catches your attention and usually informs your decision as to whether or not you're going to bother opening it and checking it out. So what we have here on the cover, it's a very recognizable motif. We've all seen it a lot. It looks like a hero confronting this all-encompassing evil because he's standing in a dingy alley in front of propaganda posters with what appear to be a highly nationalistic emblem behind him. And what you're expecting is a story about a principled, relentless loner who stands all by himself against this unstoppable corruption, which is a very clever inversion once you crack open the book and learn what this Tusby actually is. So as the story begins, we are immediately introduced to Marcus. He's our protagonist. He is a professional and highly competent, but also put upon police detective. And right off the bat, the story immediately does one of my most favorite things that a story can do. It builds the world through the action. So what we get here is something you might see in a character-driven role-playing game. One of those in which you play a character who should be familiar with the world, yet the player still needs information to understand what's going on. So the conversation kind of steers in the direction of the information without making the character look like he doesn't know something that he should know. So Marcus is in a diner and he orders a coffee because he's in the middle of a double shift. The waitress, obviously she knows him. He must be a regular at the diner, and that's implied by the way they speak to each other. Makes an offhand comment that she understands why he'd need coffee if he's in the middle of a double shift, but she also thinks his job is much easier than the normal, which is interesting because he's a police detective, and that isn't the type of job you would typically think of as simple. But this is explained right away. We learn through this conversation that Marcus is a police detective in a city full of superheroes. And this is where we learn what TUSBE stands for, the Union of Superpowered Individuals. So they are so normalized and so commonplace that they have a union. So what purpose would a normal unpowered cop have in a city full of superpowered protectors? That's the shtick, that's the gag, that's the premise. Bam, we get it right away. From there, the waitress goes on and on about her favorite hero, and Marcus has very obviously had to put up with this quite a bit, being who he is, where he is, and we get a brilliant gag in which an armed thug sticks up the diner, and Marcus says, "Thank God," because 2 things happen. 1, the waitress will shut up about the superhero, and 2, he gets to do his job. This eagerness to do his job is so endearingly funny, given his situation that we just learned everything about. So you can't help but be in his corner right from the get-go. So from there, we get another world-building gag. This is one thing this book does very well, is provide us information about the world through gags and through the action, as I said earlier. Marcus arrests the armed thug, and the armed thug says, "Oh, great. How embarrassing to be arrested by a normal cop instead of a superhero." There are several other clever gags and references that I really don't want to spoil for you, but what makes them work is that Marcus is played like a perfect straight man, and he is irritated and he's exasperated by the whole thing, and everyone else just kind of wants him to get with the program already. It's not a deconstruction per se. The heroes, they're real heroes, and the villains are real villains, and the conflict comes largely from Marcus trying to do a normal man's job in a world where no one really needs him to do it, and quite frankly, they're confused why he's trying. He's grown to accept it as inevitable, though he doesn't like it. It's really hard not to feel for him when he's trying his best to do his job to the best of his ability. He's obviously a very clever man, he's well trained, but all anyone wants to hear is, what's this hero like? You met her up close, are her breasts real, etc. That's a recurring gag that's really funny. The artwork has a lot of character. It could stand some polish in a few places, but this is the first issue, and I don't doubt that it will improve over time. For an independent title, it's just fine. It gets the job done, we see the characters' emotions very clearly. There isn't a whole lot to complain about here. There's variety in the camera angles, the action is staged pretty well. The one complaint I have is that Marcus gets punched through a wall, and he is none the worse for wear, apparently. Obviously, it's played for laughs, but the fact that he's an ordinary person in a city full of superheroes makes this gag feel a little bit out of place, but that's a minor complaint. So all in all, this book is a recommendation. Check it out over on Gumroad. It's free to read. Drop something in his tip jar, and let him know what you think. It honestly takes a lot of gumption to put all of your work out there for free. As a former webcomic artist myself, I fully understand the risk and time investment involved. You have to admire that, and I really want to see this type of thing supported. We want to encourage more creators to put themselves out there like this, because if Cory hadn't done this, we would not have this story to enjoy. And having more stories to enjoy is always a good thing. Which sounds so self-evident, I'm astonished I even have to say it. But go download the book, read it, let him know what you think. Till next time, stay safe and stay sane.